3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I am joined today by Jace, Reason, aka Reason. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, no, I would be called, I get called different things by different people, but yeah, first name basis is totally cool, mate.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate you coming in. We've got a lot to talk about, music and post-music and other stuff. So let's jump in, man. Whereabouts did you grow up and how did a young guy like yourself find his way into the hip-hop scene in Melbourne?
A great question. Well, grew up in East Bentley, South Oakley. Really sort of found my way into that space through primary school. Mm-hmm. Went to a school in Gardenvale. In my class was a fellow by the name of Mars, pretty well known to the old school heads, graph writer, used to be a breakdancer as well, was in USA crew. Started, just spending lunchtimes breakdancing and coming to school with his wind cheater with a tag on it or a piece that he'd done with Texters the night before. And I was intrigued.
We're talking early 80s as well.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. No, we are literally talking 83, 84.
So that's mind-blowing then.
Yeah. So this is, for me, this sort of genre of music, of culture. Our school was adjacent to the Gardenvale Canals. Mm-hmm. And
was the Elstonwick Bowl still there? Was that there at that time?
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Yep. So in that sort of area and, spending time, looking down the canals and suddenly there's all this sort of colourful art appearing. We thought, I was in grade 6, that we'd go down to the canals and we got some Posca pens and we thought we were piecing down in the canals with Posca pens and filling it all in. And really just starting to understand and really envelop this sort of incredible culture. And the music in itself for me was something really different. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't about this passion or love for Rapper's Delight or Break Machine, street dance, and other sort of bits and pieces coming out from the States, but it was this whole movement that just really took me, but not just by surprise, but my interest in actually the music, the graph, the going down to Coles and getting boxes and flattening the boxes and trying to break dance on them. It really was at a time where it was before people were really honing in on a particular element in the genre. Mm-hmm. It was more that we were a bit of a taste test of all these different pieces, but with that came like a collective of people who were uniting, and hence what I dare say became crews or. Mm-hmm. Further iterations of like gangs and so forth, but we're talking early to mid 80s, and I was also sort of travelling from South Oakley, East Bentley at the time, and in my area there was a huge breakdancing movement. Mm-hmm. So a guy down my street, Aki, and old school breakers will know Aki and Demos. They were in a crew called Autobeat. So Autobeat were, early breakdance crew, much like Ghetto Rock and other sort of breakdance crews. But they also painted a bit, and would go with Aki down to the Mackie Road shops and stand around while we're all breakdancing, and they were painting ghetto blasters on the wall down Centre Road, East Bentley. And just really starting to get a taste of this genre, and really from there onwards, I dare say the world was my oyster was for all of us. This brand new beginning out in East Bentley, South Oakley.
Yeah. So were these guys influenced by obviously what was going on in New York, but how are they seeing these influences? Because there's not many ways to actually get your eyeballs on that stuff.
I think probably through film and music. So we're talking. So I did go and see breakdance at the cinemas at Chatston. So when it came out,
Yep.
And I went with all those fellas as well. I think the film piece and just the music that was coming out at the time, and just starting to understand that with that music came a whole, I suppose, piece around the US and what that genre meant over there, and how that was being conveyed and transferred into a local context. We were very much influenced by that American narrative at the time, and just trying to, develop and hone in on a particular part of the genre before we actually started to realise that from that actually spawned crews, Australian styles, and so forth. That this particular period of time preceded all of that.
Yeah. And it is quite remarkable that a culture could take over the world when pre-internet, pre-anything like that, that people could see something once in a movie at the film and go out and recreate that. It's a kind of cultural phenomenon that I don't think we'll ever see again.
No, absolutely. It was, it's really interesting. Even you asking me that and me reflecting, like how did we access? We also had, we had Central Station Records. We had Greville Records. We had other, record stores that were bringing the music in. Mm-hmm. So we were jumping on that. But it'd be remiss of me not to also share that with this also came a particular attitudinal piece as well. So we weren't happy. You were trying to envelop this particular semblance of angst and really just trying to understand that there's this sort of piece of ownership that comes with it, and with ownership of the actual different elements of the genre comes ownership around the people you're hanging out with and who you were consistently spending time with, and what came of that spawned, for me personally, that sort of graph piece as well, and that, you'd start uniting with small cohorts of groups, which then grew, and then suddenly, the mid 80s and into the sort of mid to late 80s, that sort of graph piece primarily, and the gangs that spawned thereafter, it just happened organically. Mm-hmm. But it's also very much coming from that American influence as well.
Yep.
And we were so influenced by that American narrative that we still were trying to develop our own Australian style at that particular period of time.
I still struggle with some people that are a little bit older than me to try and explain to them like hip-hop culture. So I'm thinking in the mid-'80s, the older generation would have just been like, what the fuck is this? They just didn't get it.
No, absolutely. Even though I was a very small player, and I've always deemed myself as like this second gen. I never see myself as being as part of that first gen.
Early second gen, though.
Early second gen, yeah. But the people that I look up to, and the people that not just at that particular period of time, or during that particular period of time, but also retrospectively, those who I see as being my mentors, those that showed me the way. Mm-hmm. They were helping to develop this particular genre, and with that came a second gen who really were humbled, I suppose. I don't know if we used the word humbled back in the mid-'80s or mid to late 80s, but maybe humbled with a cool, I'm on board. I don't have to be as scared anymore.
Yeah,
You know,
inclusivity. You got that. Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, came that, and even thinking about what my mum, just sharing with my mum during that particular period of time. She always has a bit of a giggle. Used to love wearing the baggy clothes, and used to like wearing that pony. I mean, who wears pony, son? And the flattened pieces of cardboard, and the Posca pens that she used to confiscate because the street signs were tagged with my tag at that time as well. I just couldn't sort of articulate because it's not to say that there weren't gangs and crews. Like there was the Balaclava Boys. Excuse this term, but the Oakley Wogs at that particular time in my area were pretty treacherous.
Even in the late 90s, 2000s, when I was going to parties, they were still a thing. The Oakley Wogs are here.
Absolutely.
And they were a thing.
And I grew up in South Oakland.
Yeah.
So, for me, it wasn't just about a yasu in the morning. It was about, just understanding these guys were coming with a whole different mentality. They weren't from the hip-hop foundations per se. They preceded all of that. But many of the people I was hanging out with were affiliates of that type of early sort of gang crew mentality and so forth. And many of the guys who actually sort of found their way into the hip-hop scene were also from those sorts of non-hip-hop gangs and crews and so forth, but found their way into the genre, and was some of the most scariest entities. And I can share that now, but as a 14, 15-year-old, walking down Centre Road or going to the city or hanging out down Carlisle Street, if you saw them, you'd tentatively try to walk the other way, to be honest. Yeah.
And personally, with where you've grown up and where you've gone to school, they're on two separate train lines. So you've got the Sandy line and then you've got the Frankston line.
Yep.
So you're getting and most people, stick to their one line because you don't have that many reasons to really go anywhere else, especially when you're in your teenage years. So you're getting to see a good sort of cross-section of two different train lines, and you're getting to see cultures from two different areas. And another thing is, now Garden Vale's quite a nice area, and it's part of Brighton. They keep pushing the border of where Brighton is.
Yeah.
But back in the day, the Elstonwick, Garden Vale, there was the flats there, and it was next to the, like you said, the drains. It wasn't the kind of sort of gentrified place it is now either.
No, well, we had Cave Clan at that particular period of time as well. They literally navigated those drains and had little breakout areas. I was invited once to come down there with a couple of Cave Clan members and, got the Poscas out and, didn't realise there was a whole world that existed down there in the drains. Mm-hmm. To this day, if I go for a walk down the park and try and get my fitness up and so forth around that particular area, I still take pictures of, from the top. I'm not going down into the drains, but yeah, just all the pieces down there. And, I've got rich, really vivid memories of, what those drains represented at that particular time. So we're talking about a culture that was, spawning above ground per se. There was literally an underground scene that was flourishing at that time as well.
If you walk from the Elstonwick Garden Vale drains and you keep going, do you end up on the Dandy line? Like, does it go that far, or does it sort of veer off?
No, it goes into Bentley.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you go down Union Street, down Garden Vale drains, it goes over under Thomas Street and
comes
through
out like
Bentley.
Hawthorne Road there, sort of,
and
then it keeps going.
Keep going, yeah. So you keep going down there, and it goes through Bentley. So it was about 100 metres from where I was living in Bentley at the time, off towards. Let me think. It just keeps going down through through Bentley. I probably didn't venture too much further than that.
But you could jump. You could jump on your BMX or whatever and just fang it all the way down to Caulfield. If you, to Gardenvale. If you
Absolutely, yeah. And now there is a nice gentrified walking path. It's probably my first, second, and third option these days. But during those days, we did. You know, I did take my mongoose down there and go for a bit of a ride until you heard noises and voices and screams and you hoon back the other way. So that whole area has changed significantly. Yeah. But it's interesting because I may have gone to school around that sort of Sandy Line area, but through and through, proud Frankston Line, and to this day, it'd be remiss of me not to. Even through my music as well, really identify with that Frankston Line piece. And, it's where I grew up. It's where I went to high school. I went to McKinnon, and, just that whole demographic is a reflection of my journey. And up until this day, I still live Frankston Line, and really proud of it.
So McKinnon now is a very renowned musical school.
Yep.
Was it back then?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was. It always has been like that.
Always, yeah. No, it wasn't expecting a McKinnon High conversation. I'm happy to go there. Yeah, no, it was. It was a really strong music school.
Because I know now people literally buy houses in those areas because you're zoned, and a similar thing has happened where I grew up in Port Melbourne because of Albert Park Secondary now.
Absolutely.
When I used to go there,
yep,
you didn't even tell people you went to Hobson's Bay, but now people want to be there because they've changed the zoning. So this is a thing that actually fucking happens.
Yeah, absolutely. A strong music school, lots of good musos came out of the school as well. One of the guys I was in a crew with at that particular period of time growing up, Wojtek, became not just through his hip hop, through graph and rapping and so forth, but as a techno artist, one of the country's most
still
prolific.
Under the name Wojtek, or different monikers or anything.
Truck music.
Okay.
Yeah, so techno heads will know Wojtek, but so will all hip hop heads, and so will graph heads as well. Yep. He was in the class below me, and is a very very much a part of my music journey and the path that I traversed through school. But yeah, definitely a strong music school, and now I think they've got 3,000 kids there.
Really?
Yeah, over 2 campuses. So yeah, it's a behemoth, I think. It's a monolith.
So when you're going to that school, obviously you've got to do your regular subjects, but you're focusing on music as well. What is in the fucking music room? So what are we talking now? You'd be like late 80s.
Yep.
So what's in the music room then? It's a different scene to the music rooms these days.
Sure. Lots of trumpets and saxophones. Left the recorder back in primary school. Graduated to the saxes and also drums. And I suppose the first iteration of I think we called them bongos. These days I think we call them djembes. And I was really good on the triangle at the time. Didn't mind a hit on the drums as well, but I was prolific on the triangle. I couldn't get it wrong, really. So,
did the teachers, if you said, "Look, I want to go down this route of making hip hop music," did they comprehend that? Did they say, "Yeah, well, we're going to do that"? Like, was it a thing?
Look, it wasn't a thing, but where it was a thing was end of year performances.
Okay.
So if you had year level performances or end of year 12 performance, so at the end of year 12, my year 12 performance, I was the principal. So I came out dressed like the principal.
Did the principal like that?
He loved it. Yeah, he loved it. He had a bit of a tilt, like literally. So when he would speak, it feels weird reminiscing on this, but he sort of had his head to the side. So, went out there with my head to the side, with my like a academic gown and so forth, and busted a rap. And I was doing call and response to 1,000 students, and they all knew I was in the hip hop, just starting my journey in that sort of hip hop scene at the time. And there were times as well in the yard that we would start doing freestyles and things like that. So we'd go down the back. You weren't at the back of the cricket nets. We were hanging out, smoking cigarettes, just things that you did during high school. And we'd be doing freestyles, and people would be tagging. People would be tagging the cricket pitch. You just do silly things like that growing up. But we were known for our rap music. Teachers knew that we were rapping, but there weren't really opportunities. So
no drum machines or anything like that?
No. I mean, look, someone like Wojtek was already sort of starting to collect his drum machines, and I think he already had an 808 and a 303. And yeah. So there's some of the early sort of drum machines that we were playing around with, but no, not during those days. I think more instruments than the actual technology piece at that time.
Yeah, and you had to be creative. The whole hip-hop culture's born out of, we don't really have much, so we're going to make it work. So I guess you just make it work.
Yeah, and I think also during that particular period of time, something that I stand true to is that I grew up with a generation in an era where you weren't always only defined by the element, and I hate sort of just framing 4 elements. I think it's just one big element, but we weren't defined purely by being just a rapper or just a writer or just a breaker. Yes, as the years evolved, we honed in on a particular or a couple of different parts of the genre. And there's many people who can break, rap, write, and so forth. But during those days, when you were sort of hanging with crew, per se, you also had people who were just hanging with the crew. But when stuff went down, they'd be jumping in with for the crew. So they were crew as well. And they had names that, we referred to them as, but maybe didn't write, maybe didn't rap. They were the heavies of the crew. And I think that's one piece that I think is a bit different to some of the perceptions of how it was. Like you're just part of a crew. I was as time evolved, I was a rapper who didn't mind a paint, and no one was surprised when I went on the ground. I can still do a couple of things on the ground, albeit physio and doctor's appointments subsequently for the next 2 weeks.
Foam roller and all the rest of it.
Mate, I won't talk no Olympic breaking shenanigans.
Nah.
But I think most people would sort of know me for my MC exploits, over the years. But during those days, mid late 80s into the early 90s, you're just part of a crew, and you weren't necessarily defined. And that's a huge shift to today, where some people are incredible breakers, but they've never heard of EPMD, or they don't know who 3 Times Dope is, but they're incredible breakers, and I honour them for that. Whereas when we were growing up, different people did different things, and I think that's something that's evolved over time.
For sure. And you see it in another aspect with, like, say, graffiti videos, and there'll be graph videos now that won't contain a single piece of hip hop. It'll be, techno music or whatever they're using. So each element, for lack of a better term, has gone in its own direction, and some of the younger generations don't even associate these elements with each other. They just say graffiti's graffiti and this stays there. But I guess when you grew up submersed in it, you could never differentiate them. They're one and the same.
Very much so. Thinking about sort of the crew that I associated with, and not necessarily the crew that I started my MC exploits with, but just growing up in the 80s and into the 90s, CR crew, constantly rocking, Frankston Line crew, and one of the graph writers in our crew, well known to many, used to write napalm and death metal. Like, didn't listen to rap music, hip hop music. He was death metal head, full black and full napalm death, hence death metal and heavy metal. But one of the best graph writers Frank Salon has ever seen, and we all hung out and all walked around together and got up to shenanigans together. But yeah, hip hop music wasn't his thing.
Yeah. And I still get people messaging me today like, oh, I love all the graph stuff, but I'm not really into the hip hop stuff. And that's cool. Like, they're people who, and they're these people that are saying to me, you need to get more dudes in from the hardcore scene or whatever. It means to people what it means to them, and that's always been the case. But
yeah, I mean, I still like to, I used to be able to play Sanitarium on the guitar by Metallica. I will never part with my Run to the Hills Iron Maiden picture disc, nor will I ever part with my Place Without a Postcard Midnight Oil album signed by Rob Hurst and Peter Garrett. For me, they're just as important as some of those, I suppose, hip hop records that I have that help to create, a path for me moving forward. They're just as important. I remember I saw Run DMC in the 80s and, saw Public Enemy. But I also went to see Hoodoo Gurus and the Oils and other bands that really influenced me over the years.
For sure. And like Midnight Oil was so ahead of their time. Like the stuff that Peter Garrett was talking about in the 80s on record is now conversations people are just starting to have. Yep. And it just went over a lot of people's heads. They didn't even understand it.
Yeah, I remember an interview I did on Triple J and asked, so who are some of your favourite, hip hop, who are some of your favourite musicians or hip hop crews and so forth? And I said, well, it'd be remiss of me not to mention Midnight Oil, one of my greatest influences. I've seen them over 30 times in concert.
30 times?
Yeah, I'm a massive Oils fan. Yeah, I wouldn't miss a tour. In fact, the tour they did in 2017 or 2018, I went to 6 of the shows. Yeah,
you're an Oils tragic.
Yeah. Can I look? Let's peel it back. Okay, so I don't know how people roll when they come and get ready for these podcasts, but I'm like, should I wear the old Obese hoodie? Nah. Geez, I still love my lazy grey top, and I love wearing that lazy grey top. Got the one-line jumper, but Brendan has given me some really good burn tops. I was going to wear my head injuries Oils top. I was just going to go there. I have to tell you, it was one of the ones that spend a bit of time getting ready, not for what we're going to share, but just making sure I'm looking all right for the camera as a 50-plus-year-old man. But that head injuries Oils top. Yeah, that's everything to me. I love the Oils.
Yeah. Amazing band.
Yeah.
And just extremely ahead of their time. And I think that now people re-listen to some of that stuff. You'll get a lot out of it now that, like, as a kid, when I'm a kid in the 80s, listening to it because my mum and dad are listening to it, I don't really understand the Beds Are Burning. It didn't really make sense to me. Sure. As an adult, it makes sense. I get it. Yep. I didn't know why the beds were burning. I didn't get it. Now you understand.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, I mean, that's a whole different path. And I mean, people who've known me for a long time know that's an integral part of not just the music I listen to, but who I am as a person. Listening to groups like Warumpi Band, Coloured Stone, and others. During that particular sort of period of time in the 80s gave me also a huge impetus to continue on understanding and developing a deeper understanding of our nation's past and some of our interesting the narrative of the colonizer that we often navigate here. And how informed that is through the music I've listened to in the past and subsequently deepened my understanding about what does colonisation mean and why are we still navigating a world where we're trying to make a First Nations narrative second where it should be first and ours should be second. It's a whole other piece.
And it's a very hard to navigate subject. It's divides people. It's become very political when it probably shouldn't have, and there's a lot to unpack there.
I think that's it does segue nicely. There is no disconnect between that narrative and the hip hop world that I've been able to navigate. Very multicultural, developing intercultural understandings, understanding that different parts of Melbourne, where I was growing up in, there was different cultures that really defined their sort of the journey that they took. So, if you're in Dandelion, there was a particular, different multicultural pieces that really defined parts of their hip hop journey. If you go into other areas, they also, very much defined by that cultural piece. Mm-hmm. But the cultural piece that I think has really come to the fore in the last 15, 20 years has been that cultural piece on really highlighting the voice of our First Nations people. Mm-hmm. And that's not new to me. So that preceded the last 20 years where it's really been exposed. This is not to say that there weren't Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander MCs, writers and others that preceded that, but the voice is now being heard. Unfortunately, it hasn't created the type of systemic change from a governmental sort of at a governmental level that I would have envisaged that we'd be at now. I mean, a simple yes would have created a more, hopefully, a seamless path forward. Mm. But we're still trying to define a 1901 document, and they just can't shift the government. So, yeah, I can't rationalise it. Mm. I can't understand how we are so tied historically and politically to a piece of legislation, a document that is null and void when we are looking at trying to really raise the profile and give back, which give back what is not ours, and we should be honouring those from our First Nations communities with the type of respect that they don't just deserve, that they should have always had a place to give of themselves, provide that unequivocal understanding that we can learn from as white fellas, but it just is an enormous challenge and an enormous shift that we still need to continually work on. And I'm sorry that we still are.
And we have seen some change, like even from I'm 42. From we weren't learning much about First Nations culture when I was in school in the 80s and 90s. Yep. We weren't learning much at all. Yep. So now my son, who's just starting his journey through education, they are learning. So, and you would know yourself,
for sure,
we are making steps in the right direction. It's fucking slow though. It's very slow. Yep. But we need, and this is going to sound bad, but we probably need the older generation of these people who didn't have any education on it to probably sadly pass. Yep. So then we can sort of start a little bit fresh and people can take this stuff on board,
Yeah, the government has tried to implement a different system of education, but that system of education, delivering a curriculum and a pedagogical approach that is a reflection of the coloniser, rather than really enveloping across the country the different nations that require different types of pedagogies to teach all young people the stories of the past. This one-size-fits-all approach is not going to work. It'd be like trying to implement an educative process and systemic change in France and expecting the whole of Europe to take it on. We're talking about a plethora of different countries who envelop education in many different cultural ways. We are a country of hundreds of different nations, so we need to really hone in on what do do the different nations require in education to ensure that the pedagogy reflects the needs of the young people on Wurundjeri Wurrung country, on Yorta Yorta country, on Aranda, Yolngu, Larrakia, and so forth, for a national government to expect the delivery of an education program to reflect all nations is unfathomable for someone like me. I'm currently in a school context where I have kids from Gunditjmara country out near Portland, Warrnambool. I've got kids from the local Wurundjeri Wurrung country. I've got a couple of kids from Aranda, Central Australia. My pedagogy is not a one-size-fits-all. I know when I work with the Aranda kids, it's different to when I'm working with the Gunditjmara kids. So it's happening in my school context because I'm conscious of the needs of supporting all students, but also making sure that those students who are coming from different nations are being unequivocally supported through their education as well.
Is it trending in the right direction? Just slow?
I think the it's like the operational and the strategic. I think the operational documentation reads okay, but I think strategically the government needs to invest on educating the educators more effectively. I think the access to and provision of support from different levels of government and people within those levels of government who are First Nations being accessible to provide that unequivocal support strategically still needs a fair bit of work.
Yeah. And it's cool that we got there from a Midnight Oil t-shirt. Which...
we were talking about graphing the canals in Gardenvale, and now we're talking about systemic change at a governmental level. Yeah, love it.
But I think that speaks about how passionate you are about this sort of stuff. That triggers it. But yeah, look, Midnight Oil were very passionate. Peter Garrett maybe more so than some of the other members, I don't know. But he, with his lyrical content, he was pushing that very much ahead of its time. Yep. And it's awesome that we can have these conversations now that back then it was probably just deemed to be a cool, catchy song.
Yep.
And it's a credit to him to make those songs have such a fucking deep meaning and still be songs that people play, whether they get the meaning or not.
Yeah, it's
incredible.
I think so as well. For me... to be able to connect to that style of music, and then the content and the direction that Midnight Oil took in trying to expose some of the significant challenges that were being faced across Aboriginal Australia, and then to someone like myself who is also very invested in that space, also immersing intermittently throughout my own music, that type of narrative, because I'm living here, I'm living on the colonisers' country, I'm living in a world where, I'm not living in the Bronx, I'm not in Brixton, I'm living here in Melbourne, Australia, Naarm, and trying to make sure that that's always first and foremost sort of a reflection of who I am and what my moral imperative is as a lyricist, as a person, as an educator, as a parent, as a friend. It all sort of intertwines into the final product, whether it's with the students, conversations over the dinner table, or a reasoned release that people are hopefully nodding their heads to. It's all it all fits within the same sort of realm of who I am. Again, back to the beginning, whether it's Jason, Dad, Mr. whoever, it's all about the same sort of path forward.
Man, that was quite a nice little tangent we went on, and it was good. But let's try and bring it back. Bring it back to your journey. So school, you're recording music or you're rapping with Wojtek at school. Are you meeting other people doing the hip-hop thing out of school as well?
Yeah, so Okay, so the first sort of crew that I was in was NME, so very late very late 80s. It stood for No More Excuses, and that was Wojtek, myself, and Deadly.
Yeah, right. Frankston line.
Yep. So back to right down the other end. Well, not quite Stony Point, but yeah, the other end of Frankston line. So Wojtek was pretty keen on the BMXs, and so was Deadly. They were good mates. Deadly was working at 3AW at the time, Channel 9, and sort of doing work with people like Rex Hunt and others, sort of in the late 80s, early 90s, and we connected. So we were NME. Deadly was mainly our producer, but also would jump in and sort of do a verse every so often as well, and would take us to Channel 9 studios.
The back of Richmond there?
Yeah. So Bendigo Street. Yep. Using, I think it was 1/4-inch reel-to-reel and literally looping, and sticking it all together on the big reel-to-reel.
Sticky tape, literally.
Literally. Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'd go in there at midnight. So we had access after midnight. Take us into the studio, we'd do the recording, and then he would do his magic, and he would finish the tracks for us. And that's early Reason. So working with NME, and thereafter, so we were. So CR Crew was a big part of who we were at that particular time as well. And we were sort of releasing some of our music, and so NME constantly rocking, so the MC crew of the Graph crew, which wasn't unusual during that particular period of time. Murmur, so guy Mika or Mur, old school as well. He was from the Graph crew, but also rapped. We're all mates, and he joined. So then it became the four of us, and then over time that evolved into Intense Quality or IQ. And IQ was the new iteration of No More Excuses, and eventually just became over time. We went in different sort of directions, but all good, but just went in different directions. We formed IQ or Intense Quality, which was just Murmur and I.
Right. And so the Reason name came from a graph sort of thing, or you just thought it was a good MC name?
No, from Graph. Yeah, definitely. I was like anyone growing up in that particular period of time, and and I'm always cautious of an MC who could write, but I grew up during a time I was good with the fills, and I went for Reason.
It's got good letters.
Yeah, the letters are good, and the ASON from Jason as well. So I often do like a re and a big J, and then an ASON. So I had like Jason, or Reason and Jason, and yeah. So that's where that came from, it sort of evolved into like it's MC Reason. I never called myself MC Reason, and often to this day people are like, oh wow, MC Reason. Okay, but yeah, it was always just Reason. But yeah, people I think like the MC piece as well. So
well, yeah, I think that if you're a DJ, people whatever you want to call yourself, they're going to slap DJ on the front of it as well.
That's
so
right.
it comes with the territory.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I think for me as well, I was always I always asked lots of questions, and I always wanted to know the reason why. And
you're inquisitive. IQ.
Well, so there's everything connects. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it sounds like the Matrix. It's not a Scientology podcast. I promise you. It all does connect, and I mean even to this day, I'm all about Socratic thinking and the Socratic methodology in education. You can ask someone a question, but the first response can be seen as a surface level response, but you ask different questions to try and sort of understand a little bit more about a particular topic. And for me, that's been really important in everything that I do. It's not just wanting to hear a surface response or trying to just understand a piece of music for what it is, but really trying to dig a bit deeper and delve into, are they talking about something? And I'm not looking at conspiracies. I'm not looking at sort of hidden messages. I'm not going to go play my Anthrax record backwards like we used to. I could. I didn't. We used to love doing that. But just trying to understand and unpack, messages and stories and theories is something that's still really important to me.
Yes. So the reason behind reason is because you're inquisitive and you wanted to dig deeper. So there you go. That makes sense.
Yep. Excellent.
I get it now.
I love that.
Yeah, for sure. So you're with IQ. It's yourself and where are we on this journey? It's yourself and who is your partner?
And Mika or Murma.
Murma, sorry. Yep.
And we joined up with a guy called Nook. So Nook's story was interesting. So Nook worked at Atlantis Studios in South Melbourne. Really big studio at that time. They worked with lots of local and international artists at Atlantis. Connected with him. I knew Nook from childhood, family sort of connection, not through music at all. We joined up with him and started to record. Nook's journey, as well as being a sound engineer, so Nook was actively involved in sort of early Straight Up Records recordings as well. So Rise and Tuck, so Mama's Funksticles, he recorded their EP, and so he was quite instrumental during that particular period of time.
Yep. And in that time, sorry to cut you off, but I'm just saying, in that time, South Melbourne was a real hub for a lot of that sort of industry. Record labels, creatives, a lot of advertising, a lot of stuff was happening there. That's sort of where I grew up.
Yes.
And a lot of my parents, my friends' parents were in that advertising, music kind of TV. It was all happening there. It was a real buzzing hub, which now it doesn't seem. It's just now pretty much residential.
Yep.
But it was a really different place back then. It was a kind of exciting kind of place.
Yep. I think Channel 7 was out there as well. It was. So it was the area. I mean, even where Atlantis Studios was located, it's not there anymore. But there were studios all around there and other sort of creative hubs in that particular region.
It was a little bit sort of what kind of Cremorne is a bit like now with a lot of those sort of advertising and creative areas. It was more like that, but in a sort of more industrial way, which was cool. We've kind of lost that. But I was just putting that out there so people could get that understanding.
No, absolutely. It really was. And we would take a train and a tram out there and sort of under the bypass, and create magic. And it was just something special. Like we're in this a real studio. We're not on the 4-track Tascam, using audio cassettes, and we're not at Channel 9 studios and having deadly cut up, 1/4-inch tape and sticking it together. It'd take ages for him to get the song finished. And, in retrospect, I probably never appreciated, like, literally cutting up, chopping. It's just incredible. Whereas these days, I can just ask AI, give AI my voice, tell them what I want to write about, and release it to the masses. Check out my new track. So, haven't we come a long way?
Yeah, for sure. And AI is a little bit scary, man. Like it is definitely scary. But I'm kind of trying to have a positive mindset with it and say that people are going to really want the human connection for stuff like this that we're doing. Definitely. I hope that this really kicks off because people don't want to know it's real. They want to sit down and see what is really behind the person. Mate,
you're one of the most convincing AI sort of screens I've ever spoken to. This must be like 3.5, 4.5. So I hope the listeners realise that I'm real here,
and we're glitching here behind the scenes.
It's like Max Headroom. I'm having an interview with Maloney, aka Max Headroom. Yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah, I hope that with AI personally that. It's got great uses, and I think it'll sort of replace Googling stuff in a way. You could kind of get a better answer to your stuff. But when it comes to creating art, I hope it fucking pisses off because I just don't dig that stuff,
Yeah, look, I I learned something recently. So I had a colleague who was departing, so someone's got to do a speech. And I realised at that particular time, we weren't given a whole lot of sort of lead in to actually create the speech. So I spoke to a colleague at work and they created a speech, added in some key pieces, and AI produced this lovely, one-pager and took little bits out of it. And I saw some merits, but for me, losing that human touch, the actual creation of music, where you're using different pieces and sounds and drums and effects and so forth, and then trying to create a voice that's not really authentic and disingenuous. Yeah, maybe it's a generational thing, but it doesn't resonate with me.
No, not at all. And I've tried to use it for my my day job type stuff, and it doesn't work very well in that. And I'm sure it'll get better, but it's I find I have an issue with it. Anyway, enough about AI. We're real people. Yep. So let's talk about your journey. So you're in the real studio, Atlantis. Atlantis. Yep. You're recording in a real place. It feels like this is actually happening now.
Yeah. So we had connections with other people as well. So
what year is this? Just so we know where we are on the timeline.
89, 90.
Right. So it's still early days. There's hardly any Aussie recorded rap out there commercially. Not much at all. You've got AKA.
Yep.
Have you got Death Wish Cast yet?
Nearly.
So this is one thing that people got to recognise. There was no template. There was no fucking benchmark.
I think Mad as a Hatter came out around that time.
Yep.
Yeah. So I go as far as saying that when we dropped our first sort of IQ. Death Wish Cast were doing their thing as well. So, it was happening around that same time. You had West Side Posse in Sydney, Sounds Unlimited. The next iteration was Sounds Unlimited Posse as well. But this is around the onset of AKA Brothers, Straight Up Records, and so forth. I mean, they're people talk about their heroes being your Karis ones, Rakims, and EPMDs, and whoever else. If I really want to be honest and straight up, it's the influence of AKA Brothers. It's the influence of Rise and Tarkey, Park Bench Royals, PMP, Power Mode Production, so Prowler's first crew. It's groups like that I look up to. That for me is where I position myself as second gen. They were the benchmark. Mm-hmm. But we were lucky. We were creating really good music, and in very different ways. They were accepting of us. They took us under their wings in different ways as well. Particularly, some of the members of Straight Up Records, and we'll talk about that as we go through. But they were creating the music, they were getting success, and we also saw a place for us as well, being able to sort of travel in that sort of similar direction. So that was during that particular period of time of hey, welcome, the Australian hip hop scene is truly here. I know it was here a bit before that, but we have just arrived.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier when someone opens the door for you than to kick it open yourself.
That's it. Yeah. And when you got guys like that who are kicking open the door, both verbally and metaphorically and physically for all other reasons as well, you're more than willing to follow suit.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got someone to look up to. You've got people that you can bounce ideas off, and they can say, "Hey, we learnt the hard way. Yep. This is a pain in the ass. Why don't you try and do it like this?" You've got some people that you can actually bounce some ideas off.
Yeah, we're really lucky. Murmur was sort of grew up in Dandy. Grew up with a lot of the old school heads out there. Armed, Ash, a lot of those sort of 3174, KSA, FMC, and I didn't mention DSA before as well. Another really strong collective of MCs who came from. Again, they were part of that wider 3174 KSA, FMC.
What does DSA stand for?
Destoned Artists.
Okay. Yep. Destoned Artists.
Yeah. And other iterations, but yeah. So they were killing it as well at that particular period of time. People like Ransom were really giving of themselves. So we knew Phil from the hip hop scene per se, and graph and all that as well. Pac was always really open to us as well. Escapone, really willing to engage. And then Rise and Tarkey, they were East Malvern boys, so they were in our area and really gave of their time. We would hang out with them and go out to gigs with them and just learn from those guys. And they were more than willing to help contribute just to bouncing off ideas. Ransom would help us out on the decks as well and do some scratching for tracks and help us out live. We'd hang out on weekends and, just being around those fellas, they were inspirations to me, to us, and, gave us that belief in ourselves that we could be a part of this in a really big way.
So when you would rap and those guys would sort of nod their head and go, yeah, we're feeling this, that gave you a little bit of confidence to go, yeah, we're doing the right thing?
Oh, look, I don't do disingenuous, but would do thanks, man, and probably turn my head like, oh my gosh, they like my music. Oh my gosh, they like my music. I'm 18, 19-year-old and these guys are digging it. Like, it's pretty special. It's would it be any different? I've often thought in retrospect, would it be any different for, someone like Cold Crush saying to Daddy Kane, we really like your stuff, man. You got to be. Well, for us, they're the first generation of dudes doing it, and they're liking our stuff. It's pretty stoked. Yeah, it's massive for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when they're digging your stuff, you're making it, you're putting it out there.
Yep.
That's the next step because you can make your music, but you've got to get it out there to people.
Yeah, so that's it as well. So during that particular period of time, released their first 12. Rise and Tarkey were bringing out theirs. Park Bench Royals preceded them. But, it's a time where vinyl started to come out. We released our tape, which was IQs Are In Session. And that was for us a big piece of music that we were able to share with others. People started becoming familiar with the songs on the IQ. It was like an EP that we brought out. Got played on radio, so we had the Wheels of Steel on Triple R that were really receptive to our music and took us on.
Which was purely hip hop, or
Yep. So that was early 90s. Wheels of Steel. We also had people like DJ C, who was also happy to play our music. So our music started to get out there, and we were like, "Wow, this is incredible." We started getting gigs, started supporting these groups that I've been speaking about, and realised that we'd go to gigs and people were digging our stuff, and crews would come, and the hip hop scene, the music piece was starting to get some traction. There were venues that were happy to take us on until they weren't, because we trashed the toilets and unfortunately shit would go down. But there started to be shows available to us. We were getting paid $50 each to come and do a show. And then things changed up for us when we developed the interstate connection. And I think, it's been said before that, we were the first group, Intense Quality, to really open up that interstate connection. Other groups, so a lot of the ones I've just spoken about had interstate connections, but we started doing shows interstate. We started to perform in Sydney. We connected with Deaf Wish Cast. We did the 1992 Australian DMCs. Mm-hmm. We travelled up there by train. It was myself, Murmur, Nook and Ransom. We went up there by train to perform at the Australian DMCs at the Phoenician Club.
No one's competing, you're just performing like a demonstration?
That's it. Yeah, so the DMCs were on, but we were one of the two acts performing. Mm-hmm. And we connected with Deaf Wish Cast.
Yep.
And that was massive. Like, these guys who were starting to develop these interstate connections. Who would have thought of it? Like, it was just amazing that suddenly at that time, and we travelled by train there and back. Those missions on the V line were interesting, special, testing sometimes after getting no sleep, but also a little bit of drinking and a bit of fun on the train and so forth. But it started to happen like about 92, the interstate shows piece. And for me personally, I go as far as saying for the Australian hip-hop scene, that developing interstate connections, shows across the country, it started to happen.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, to state the obvious, there's no internet, but you're calling these dudes on the phone. How are you communicating to book a show up there? You call them and say, hey, where's the venue? We want to come play with you, and vice versa. That's how it's happening?
That's how it's happening.
Yeah.
Yep. So... DMC Records through... It wasn't through Kieran, but I can't remember who it was through at the time. He was working at Central Station Records and said, look, come up, can pay for your airfare, give you a little bit of money, some drinks and so forth, come play at the Phoenician Club, Australian DMCs, Deafish Cast. And we're like, yeah, cool, get to meet these other contemporaries interstate. And we got on stage at 2:30 a.m.
Wow. Yeah. After a long train ride, or you're staying overnight there beforehand?
Can't even remember.
Yeah, but that's late still.
It's like 1 day over 3 days. I think Deafish Cast got on about 3:30 a.m.
Wow.
So if you can't connect with people and have a lifelong sort of understanding that you're instrumental in developing this real piece of history in 91, 92 that to this day continues on, 30 plus years later. That was a really special time for us and created every opportunity thereafter.
Yeah. And was it always love? Like, Melbourne and Sydney have always had rivalries, and I guess then was it like, all right, they're doing this, we've got to try and do it, we've got to do it better? Or was it like you were always on we're doing this thing together?
No, it was all love. Yeah, no, at that particular time was all love. It was actually really nice to meet people from other states. It's not to say that in preceding years hadn't met other graph writers primarily from other parts of the country, but on a musical level, that was pretty special. Yeah, no, it was all love.
But this is just my curiosity from a DJ background. When you played these gigs like that in a day when it's obviously a long time before any kind of digital music was able to be played, how would you do your instrumentals? How would, like, say, Ransom, if he's DJing for you, do the instrumentals? Would you have to press up single records just to have your own instrumentals, or how did that even work?
No, we go off DAT. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so we went off DAT.
Yeah.
Tape.
Yeah. So, which is crazy to think, isn't it?
Audio cassette. Yeah, or DAT. Just saying it to you just then, I'm like, tape. Was it a BASF or a TDK? Let me get back to you.
But that's what I was kind of thinking.
bizarre.
But it is crazy to think that the turntables you couldn't even use to play the gigs live because you didn't have the records in the instrumental form on the discs.
Yeah. So what we could do, and what we did do also, is we used other people's instrumentals.
Yes.
And so the DJs that we were working with at that particular time. So we worked with DJs like Ransom. We worked with DJs like Breeze as well, who proceeded
He messaged me this morning.
Well, there you go.
Trying to, yeah.
Yep. So Breeze preceded Ransom. We worked with him a bit earlier as well. But they just beat mix and
instrumentals on the back of 12s from the US.
Yeah. So we do that. Choose your favourite. I don't know. I think we used to use Microphone Fiend often. We used to use Jungle Brothers 12s as well, and I don't think we did I'll House You, but we did a few other ones as well, and yeah, that was pretty unique. Actually, in retrospect, just thinking about it, when you've asked me that question, that we actually used to travel with tapes. That's incomparable. I just can't get my head around it. Like, I mean, it's like seeing those videos and people, what's this? And people using a pen in the tape, and people take. Like, we used to do that. It's like surgery.
Yeah, it was crazy. Even now, with Shazam or just finding a track, it is just there. Or even if someone tells you about something, we've got it at our fingertips. You used to have to go into a record store and hum somebody a tune to try and find this one that you wanted. Like, kids take it for granted how accessible everything is,
Yeah, that's right. I did used to hum some of those tunes
to try and find what they were.
It would be like, I really like that Midnight Oil track. Which one? The one where he goes like this. Oh, that one. Yeah, no worries, mate. Yeah, we've got that one.
We've got that one.
God. Anyway.
So you've made your interstate connections. We're getting into early 90s. And I guess this is a bit of another resurgence for hip-hop culture, because in the 80s it was huge. It took over. But then in the 90s, the music really pushes to the forefront as well, because you've got groups that are really doing it worldwide. So that's a whole new thing for you as well.
Yeah. We connected internationally as well. So, and that was through a group called Skunk Hour. Mm-hmm. So they gave us this incredible opportunity. So they asked Murmur and I, would you like to get up with us? We're supporting Cypress Hill and Ice Cube.
Amazing.
Can you imagine, like, we'll get back to you. Not so sure. Wow.
Yeah.
So,
because they're like a full band, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And they've made a resurgence. They've come back. I think it's the new, once you turn 45, 50, you make a comeback. Mm-hmm. So they're touring again. Festival Hall, Coogee Bay Hotel in Sydney. We're like performing with Cypress Hill and Ice Cube.
Is this like the first Cypress Hill record?
Yeah.
Was it Black Sunday?
No, this is
before that.
Gone blank.
It was, so it's we're talking 92.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're jumping around, not knowing what's going on backstage. So historically, that's when Cypress Hill and Ice Cube had their fallout. So we didn't realise that when we accidentally went into Ice Cube's sort of space, why there was a chair in the roof. Like someone flipped a chair and bang. We didn't realise there was shit going down at the time. I mean, we weren't about to go and find out,
But you did speak to him and be real and stuff?
No, Ice Cube, not a word. Not a word in Melbourne, not a word in Sydney, nothing.
Nothing.
Cypress Hill, awesome.
Yeah.
No problem. Amazing, lovely. Where are we going? What do you want to do? Let's go. All of that. Yeah, they were wonderful. Yeah, they sort of normalised it for us, because we're backstage with our mates from Sydney, Skunk Hour, but there's Be Real. What? Mm-hmm. There's Muggs. There's Sendog. This is nuts. Mm-hmm. Like, we're hanging out. This is incredible. They were amazing, both in Sydney and in Melbourne. They were great.
I could also imagine that those guys would be a lot more receptive to this Aussie hip hop stuff that's happening, because they came from a sort of different kind of culture as well.
Yep.
They had the crossover with the rock and the rap a little bit, and
Definitely.
Muggs's productions, he borrowed a lot from unusual samples.
Yep.
So they would have totally got the, I think to any American in that early day, it would have been like, these Aussie guys are doing rap. It's a bit hard to get our head around, but they would have probably understood it more than some of the other groups you could have toured with.
Definitely. Yeah, no, they were happy to have a chat. They were interested in what we were doing. They were interested in the country and the genre and the culture. The crowd was going nuts. So, for us to sort of be backstage during that particular period of time and to be immersed with a group that we were loving, as well as Ice Cube. Mm-hmm. It just at that particular period of time, we weren't aware of the beef between the two. And he was very standoffish, unfortunately. But that
potentially could have been because you were siding with the other side, and he would have been like, "This guy's, if he fucks with them, then you know what I mean." Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think he was pretty close shop. Yeah, and I've heard different sort of takes on that particular period of time, and just he's coming off the back of the NWA, hype.
He's a global megastar at that sort of stage.
Yeah. I mean,
when Cypress Hill were just coming up.
I mean, we're just as excited to have conversations with Cypress Hill, but yeah, to talk to someone like Ice Cube would have been pretty special. He was there with WC from WC in the Mad Circle as well.
Yep.
He had a bit of a chat with us, but yeah, not a word from Ice Cube. So
it's good for the resume, though. Man.
Oh, it's amazing. Actually, there was one before that where we actually played at Pushover.
Yep.
With young black teenagers.
Yes.
So, yeah, that preceded that. That was pretty exciting as well. They sort of had a small little hip-hop section amongst all of the other...
And that was an underage festival, wasn't it? All ages.
All ages,
All
yeah.
ages.
All ages festival.
They used to do it at Luna Park, and then they used to do it at yeah.
I think this one was actually at Olympic Park.
Yeah.
Before that got destroyed and rebuilt as a temple for my footy club, Collingwood. So...
I'm a pies guy too.
Oh, well, all right, yeah. So, so the old Olympic Park, yeah.
It was a dog's track.
It was.
Yeah.
Yep. And now, hopefully it's 2025 track forward to, hurrah for Pendles and Sidey. You better stop me right about now.
Look, last year I got this one.
I've got the scarf in the car, straight up. The scarf is in the car, so it does feel like footy's in the air at the moment.
I can show you afterwards. I've got a signed ball from 1990 from the training session before the grand final.
I didn't talk about waking up on that Sunday morning in the grandstand at Vic Park.
Really?
Yeah, after the game. I was there, 1990.
Wow.
And, did wake up in the grandstand, the next morning.
Yeah, amazing. My
special times.
Family member of mine, they were a trainer at Collingwood then when I was young. So they used to take me to the training. I meet Peter Dacos. They got me the signed ball, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I've been a Collingwood fan since the mid '80s.
Peter, I've heard of Nick. I've heard of Josh. Who's this Peter guy you are speaking of? God, I'll tell you, and people love this, but I won't give away my PIN number. But I can tell you, ever since cards in the ATMs, there's always been a 35 in there, mate.
Yep.
Anyway.
I've actually played a game of footy and worn Peter Dacos' boots.
I know Rupert Betheris, and so do many of your listeners. Yeah, many of your people. He'd be a good person to get on board for one of these. His story, both as a pie and growing up with, his brother, one of the greatest graph writers to walk the streets of Melbourne, Senna. Yeah.
Well,
he'd be a great person to get involved.
Anybody that you think would be good, I'm down. You let me know afterwards, and we'll do it.
I mean, his brother Ten, rest in peace, passed away as well. He'd be a great person, Roop, and he might like that tattoo. As well. Although he played in a couple of losing premierships, but I think the one against Port was at 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
I get them confused, that Brizzy Port era where we played them, they played each other and so forth. Kicked 4, I think, in one of the grand finals.
Yeah, that was sort of mid-2000s.
Yeah, now he's living up in Tennant Creek.
Footy, we could talk. Yeah, man, we could talk footy, but we better not. We better move on. But yes, we're both black and white, which is good.
That's right.
So where are we on your timeline now? Where are we?
Yeah. So after that sort of exposure to international artists, and working with IQ, having opportunities with Skunk Hour. The interstate connection was really starting to happen. Voices of the Underground in Adelaide. So that was possibly the biggest hip-hop festival, probably not to this day, but that was probably the first of the big hip-hop festivals. That was...
Adelaide's always loved hip-hop.
Love it.
They're huge fans,
Yeah, and some of my greatest friends still to this day were not just a part of that early stages of hip-hop there and graph and so forth, but... that it was always about Melbourne and Sydney. That's what it felt like to me. But to those of us who are entrenched, you were never not conscious of the immense culture that was being developed in Adelaide, in Brizzy, Perth and other parts of the country. You knew it was happening.
Don't forget Tassie. Don't forget Hobart.
Yeah, and of course...
and Canberra as well.
And Canberra and Kalgoorlie.
And everywhere.
Wollongong to Alice. Enough respect to Port Hedland crew and all of that. But no, you're right. Yeah, but it was really only in the mid-90s that all of the roads leading to every part of the country started to open up for us. And, I credit a lot of that to that early 90s and being able to be exposed to the international piece.
Yep.
Adelaide putting on Voices of the Underground. So we, groups like Finger Licking Good as well. Mama's Funk, Deafish Cast were involved, and many others. The culture started to come alive. And... I'm very fortunate to have been present during that particular period of time.
And it was a really good time for, I think, music festivals, for live music as well. You had sort of Big Day Out and festivals like that, which were pushing a lot of live music, which then spawned little side shows and just more popularisation for live music, whether it is your traditional rock stuff or whether it is your sort of more hybrid stuff as well, or your hip-hop, gigs.
Definitely. You also had groups like 28 Days and a few others that were sort of, starting to appeal to some of the hip-hop heads, particularly those who like to skate. We were listening to lots of like Slayer, Anthrax as well, because, again, that sort of skating sort of genre was sort of interdispersed within the culture as well. There were so many opportunities to find your little pathway that was still connected to your roots, but the music scene in itself, whether it was through a PBS, Triple R, or the onset of Triple J, they were giving you other opportunities. So it was like, all right, we've got a smorgasbord now. What pathway, were you going to go on, or which of the pathways were going to take you on and give you those opportunities to flourish? And
are you at this stage? Are you full-time music? Are you thinking about a real job at all?
Well, at that particular period of time, so as we head towards the mid-90s, Reason goes solo. So Mika, went in a different direction.
Still creative?
Yep. But also he wanted to do a bit of travelling and still loved his art as well. And he enjoys sort of nature and it's very holistic sort of existence. I'm pretty focused on finishing my uni degree at the time as well. So 93, 94, finishing my degree, my teaching degree. And I went solo. It was best for me at that particular time. But with that came opportunities that I could sort of pick and choose who I was going to do music with.
It opens up, there's no one else to bounce ideas off you. Like, this is my idea, I want to do it.
Yeah, and for me that was immense because it also led me in the direction of being able to work with people that I've always wanted to work with, and being engaged in other sort of tours and so forth. I was still travelling the country, doing plenty of Reason shows.
Who's push and play on the DAT player when you do it when you're doing it solo?
Yeah, great. Yeah, great. Oh, well, I would actually get the DJ. So if I travel to another state, I'd get the DJ there. I'd contact them, probably still on the phone.
STD call.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. DJ for me. So probably moving more to the turntables and playing on instrumentals then as well.
Yep.
Still writing music, and then found my way through my friendship and started to create a bit more of a focus around Centre Road and working with Pac D. As well.
Yep.
As well. So
he gave me one of the early Centre Road posters over there.
Yeah, I saw that in the podcast. I mean, Pac's creation of flyers for shows precedes, today, tell AI, create this, and it does so for you. He was using texters and pens and rulers and so forth, and sticking it and then cutting and just incredible.
For sure. He says in the rap that he did here, he says, from the mic to the flyer, give me both and I'll rip it. And it's true, man. He was doing it all.
Doing it all. Yeah. So that was, as well as the friendship that I had with Pac at that particular period of time, it wasn't an aspiration of mine to all roads lead to working with one of my heroes, because we had a friendship. But it was pretty cool, starting to work with Pac. One of my heroes on the mic, someone who I held in very high esteem, not just for him as a person, but for the work that he'd done to develop a scene that I was continuing to give to.
Yep. And he was so passionate about Aussie rap. He didn't want it to be Americanized. He wanted it to be Australian.
To the local street, to Dandy, to Noble, to the hills, it was all about staying true to your local context. That was always Pac.
Still to this day.
Still to this day, and listening to that podcast, that hearing his stories, whether it's from downhill mountain bikes to the journeys that he sort of went on. His context is always very localized, and that was pretty special to be able to start doing tracks with him. We were doing shows interstate, shows locally. That Centre Road piece, and I spoke earlier about constantly rocking CR. So for me, Centre Road, next iteration of CR. There was a real
pay homage to the graph stuff.
Yeah. So there's a real strong connection to that as well. And we did lots of good things, and we made some really good music that never really got officially released as well. But that particular period of time was an opportunity for growth. I just started my teaching career as well, and really just trying to find my way through a particular. It was a little bit tumultuous personally, not a reflection of anyone around me at that particular period of time, but just teacher, MC, hip hop art. Like, what next? Is my journey about to be a teacher who raps, a rapper who teach, one or the other? And there's a sense of uncertainty. Really, growing up, moving away from some of the interesting pieces of the 80s into the early 90s, shenanigans personified into, hoodie by weekend, shirt by day. And I found that difficult.
Yeah.
Being able to sort of walk away from a gig and then spend Sunday arvo marking work, going to work on the Monday, going to that gig on the Wednesday night. It wasn't sustainable. It was tenable, but it wasn't sustainable. And it presented some social, emotional challenges for me at that particular period of time. But the balance became a challenge, but being able to find that happy medium and to where I am today, I'm grateful that I had to deep dive through that challenge in order to achieve a semblance of success and longevity over time to where we are today.
So you're working with Pac, Ransom, all those guys. Is there any other dudes that you're meeting that you're working with that now that you're doing your solo Reason thing that you can reach out to them?
Yeah, well, there was a night happening out in Preston. This is a really interesting story, and I got to perform there as Reason, and then there was an artist who I knew through the graph scene. I knew who he was through the graph scene. Guy by the name of Bias. You're all good. We've heard of him before.
We know who he is.
Yeah,
yes.
no
He's
worries.
got a couple of tags on the wall there.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he's got a couple of semi-on reds and whatever that he's left behind as well, knowing Bias. So, yeah, a guy, Bias, got up and started doing his raps as well. This guy was super talented. Yeah, and I knew him through his WCA connection and Graph. Had a couple of people say to me, got to check out this guy. He's killing it and whatever out in our area. And I was enamoured by his enthusiasm, by the crowd response, wanted to hang out a bit more with this fella. So
did he have the Aussie accent at this time?
Nope.
No, because he does mention that in the episode we did.
Yep.
Okay.
No, he didn't. I dare say, like many people who were starting off, when I was starting off in the 80s, I think I sounded more American than any American that you've ever met before, really accentuating that American sort of accent until I didn't. Listen to people like AKA and others who sort of gave me... I dare say they made it permissive not to sound like that because we didn't know anything different. So Bias was sounding pretty American, but we started hanging out and enjoyed his company and wanted to get him involved. So there was a period of time where I was doing shows and Bias was like my backup, sort of, hype man, and would get up and do his verse and do my backups, and we started hanging out a fair bit together. I'm thinking about this time where I got this call. So Ransom had a few mates over from interstate. Come over. I've got Hams over. So Hams, I'd met Hams a fair bit previous to this, and he was there with a couple of mates from Towering Inferno. So went over there with Bias and this dreadlocked gun on the mic. You've heard of Lazy Grey?
I have, yes.
All right, good. I'm being super facetious here. Certainly one of my top 3 Australian MCs of all time. He was over, and we're connected, and lo and behold, I started hearing about Bias reconnecting and connecting, and what an amazing, piece of history that is, that through that sort of initial interlude, Bias started to connect with Lazy. And so Lenny was originally a Melbourne boy. Mm-hmm. I knew Lenny from growing up as well. He connected and they created some immense magic and some of the greatest pieces of, hip-hop, the Boney and Stoney piece.
Mm-hmm. And they met at Ransom's house because you brought Bias there.
Yeah, I think I'm not. I'm. Good work, Jace. The connector.
Yeah.
Look, I think that was the first time he'd met Lazy. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's the first time he'd met Lenny before. I don't think Lenny wasn't wasn't there at that time. But yeah, they connected and have had a significant love affair since. And aren't we all better for it? That love affair that created some of the greatest moments and tunes and following that this country's ever seen. That Boney Stoney piece, and then Lazy moving from the Towering Inferno and started working with Len One, and boy, that's some awe and wonderment unto itself. So yeah, they connected, and we're all the better for it.
And so then you're taking Bias with you when you're doing the interstate gigs now? Is he doing backups for you or just locally?
Yeah, no, we travelled. Yeah, we travelled together as well. He came interstate. But he was also, it was too good to be a backup, hype man. He's had a well-developed following amongst his own sort of crews, and absolutely, unequivocally needed to go and do his thing. And he went off and flourished, and created one of the greatest brands, names, entities of recent times in this Australian hip hop scene.
For sure. I think as somebody who does this, and not everybody that I associate with knows too much about Aussie rap, but when you say I have rappers on the podcast, they'll be like, so you got Bias B on there? Like, he's like the one that they'll go to, you know?
100%. Look,
he's the Tony Hawk of Australian hip hop.
Does that make me the Lance Mountain? Anyway,
he's very well known.
100%. Yeah, no, I just go home and pull out the Power Peralta with the rocket wheels and the independent trucks. Anyway, I'm diverging. He is, and has created a brand, and I don't think that's his intent. He raps to the riders. He raps the lyrics that the punters want to hear. He is iconic. Boy, can he write some of the sickest metaphors that anyone's ever written before in Australian hip hop. The brand itself, I've got students that I've taught. Have you met Bias B? Yeah, I've met him before. People far and wide. He's one of the iconic names of Australian hip hop, and well deserved of that title. Not just as an MC, not just as a writer, but a genuinely great person.
Very humble.
Yeah, very humble, and someone who. We've always sort of been in each other's lives, and there's been periods of time we've come in and out, but particularly over recent years, it's just been wonderful to wholeheartedly reconnect with him on a Jason and Adam level. Mm-hmm. Yep, and to be able to really revel in the time I get to spend with him.
Yeah, and that's very well said. I'm sure he'll appreciate those words, and I'm sure he would say a similar thing if he was here talking about yourself.
He's iconic. I mean, I don't know if there's a name that's more iconic in Australian hip hop to this day. It's a big call because I've traversed across many frontiers in this Australian hip hop scene, but I could be in a country town and they've heard of Bias B. I could be up in Kalgoorlie. I've mentioned all these places before, and Tasmania as well. Let's not forget about our brothers in Tassie. Enough respect to Taunts, Bunks and others. But yeah, he's certainly the atypical, iconic name in Australian hip hop, and well deserved.
I'm going to put you on the spot now. If there's a Mount Rushmore of Aussie rap, 4 heads up there. I'm guessing you're going to say Bias is 1. Who else would you put up there?
All right, so because I remember when that disgusting, horrible entity Trump was asked, and I think he wanted more than the 3 Mount Rushmore. Is there 3?
There's 4.
There's 4. Okay, but I think he wanted 5. All right, so I'll give you 5.
Okay.
All right, he's on the spot. So I put Bias B there. Mm-hmm. I'll put Lazy Grey. Mm-hmm. I'll put. Can I put a crew as one?
Yeah,
one here. Yep. I put AKA Brothers. Mm-hmm. As one. I'll put Pegs.
Yep.
For his friendship, his contribution, and being one of the best MCs in the country. And
so he's not up there just as a rapper. He's up there as a person who facilitated, or just for the MC ability?
Oh, he's always one of my top 3 MCs, but he's also one of my best friends. So, and I, excuse the pun, I'm not being biased here. I think in many people's eyes, if you're looking at top 5, top 10, you'd put Pegs in there, 100%, and also for the obese contribution as well. I think the 5th one, if I'll go 2 for the 5th. I'll go Shazlik 1 for his contribution in the development of Obese Records and the brand, and giving me the opportunity to release the first Obese record.
Mm-hmm. Talking about kicking open doors, he definitely did that.
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, Obese 001 Solid is a testament to Shaz 1. And from a skills perspective, and also being an upstanding member of the community, put Trem there as well.
Mm-hmm. I love the way that you somehow got like 17 people into four spots, but that was very diplomatic. Well done.
I've only done 3, haven't I? I've got another 6 to do.
No, you did. I'm sure all those people will appreciate those shout-outs. But when you just said bias was really the I thought this is a good opportunity to put you on the spot there, and I think it was a really good answer. But I did say rappers because it's a whole other thing if you're talking about DJs as well, and there's a whole different conversation to happen.
Yeah, it's really difficult because the one thing that I've held really strong through my journey in hip hop is the friendships that I've made, and we're talking about friendships that extend way beyond this hip hop realm. People who I want to share my personal successes with. People who, when they have a child, I'll go and fly interstate to bring the teddy bear and come see their new baby. I really appreciate that. In its raw essence, Reason the artist is also more than just a singular entity. If that makes sense. For me, the friendships, the honour system that pervades, the opportunities to be able to travel the country and always have somewhere to stay, someone to hang out with. I'm off to Brisbane next month. Of course I'm going to catch up with Bigfoot. I mean, I would have caught up with him if he's here in Melbourne. Just the opportunities to be able to forge really deep friendships and talk about more than who's got the freshest track, who's done, a panel. I'm beyond that. But in many ways, I've always been beyond that. It's always been about, your trusted circle of influence and that sphere of influence that those people around you who impact you more than just on a surface level. And that's really important to me, always has been.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, why you were studying to do your Diploma of Education and get into teaching, because you cared about community and friendships and helping people more so than just the other thing. And it seems like the vehicle for you to do that was through music, but it could have been sort of anything. That's just the way that you chose to go.
And hence why, I've branched out running workshops. So, running workshops in remote Indigenous communities around Central Australia. Working with kids in juvenile justice centres, being a part of mentor programs, really advocating and helping to support and stand alongside of people, being a proponent of not just my own agenda, not just my own journey, but giving others opportunities to step up. And it's only when I listen to, and I mean this quite sincerely, when I listen to your podcasts, when I listen to Jake Biz, listen to interviews that Hal has had on Triple J, said with the greatest sense of humility, do I realise that, I've had a bit of a piece to play in people's sort of respective journeys, and it was never done with any intent other than just, I don't want to do this alone. Like I don't want to, travel the country without having opportunities to walk alongside of others. And that's a really important part of not just my hip-hop journey, but what I stand for as an educator or a workshop facilitator is, I don't do, and using some educational speak, I don't do the whole direct instructional methodology of old school, you stand there, I'll stand here, and I shall tell you how it's done. But let me, maybe through a coaching sort of narrative, allow me to walk alongside of you, and let me have an opportunity to work with you, and if things come of it. And if I think about the sorts of people I've worked with over the years who've been my hype people or have travelled the country, and I only get to hear about this through your podcasts and other other opportunities, interviews and so forth. I didn't realise until recently, and with the greatest sincerity, how I've contributed to other people's journeys. I really had no idea But when I've been able to, I suppose, stand back and think about, who did I travel with to that gig? Who was my hype man for this gig? I'm like, wow.
You don't take it in when you're living it. You need to sort of take a step back.
Yeah, I mean, Bigfoot had never been interstate until he's my hype man for Culture of Kings.
Wow.
Peg's never done an interstate show until he was my hype man for a big hip-hop festival in Sydney. I didn't think about it. I didn't even really take it into any level of consideration until I reheard that and then realised, okay, I hope that if anything, my legacy is not primarily around the quality of my music or how I've been able to create the Reason brand, but it's also how I've hopefully been able to contribute to the scene, whether it's the journey of others or maintaining a semblance of humility, sincerity in how I've espoused who I am. I think that's far more important. That's a legacy that I hope that I continue to leave rather than the braggadocious bravado that I can do when I'm on stage, smashing it at a laundry or wherever else. But yeah, I don't want to be known for that. I don't want my kids to see me as that. I don't want my family and my friends to see me as that. I want to be hopefully seen as someone who's a holistic contributor rather than it's all about me, me, me.
And I think you're doing a good job, so don't stress about that. You are doing a very good job to put that out there, I think.
Yeah, thanks,
and also we sort of talked about it a bit off camera, but with maturity comes a lot of different things. But so the way that you portray yourself maybe in your 20s and 30s is different to when you're in your 40s and 50s. So that's something that you can't really change. You just have to be like, oh, that's how I was then, and that was part of me, and this is where I am now. You know.
It was a weird sort of narrative for me a couple of years ago. So I was watching the scene at a time where I'd taken a bit of time away from the scene.
Had you retired at this stage?
Oh, jeez, God, this is such a funny thing. I'm always retiring. I'm always retiring. Maybe it's just and I'm just tired. So.
There you go.
I'm just retiring.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm starting to retire. Anyway, at the moment. I had retired. Someone asked me about, where do you see your place? How will you be remembered? Because I don't have the lyrical tenacity and the skills to flip multi-syllable stuff like some of my heroes, local and overseas. So I've always sort of seen myself, if I could quantify it, I sort of see myself as like this sort of 7 or 8 out of 10 style rapper who is probably an 11 out of 10 when it comes to heart, a 12 out of 10 when it comes to some of the content and topics that I would like others to hear. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to that sort of syllable breakdown rap voice stuff, I'm about a 7 or 8. I always want to be, though, thought of as a 15 out of 10 contributor to the scene. That's far more important to me, that I've been able to be a contributor, help build the scene in different ways, really advocate for others, than be seen as the 10 out of 10 MC who does nothing more than produce immense, incredible music, but hasn't contributed elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I can't think of and this is not, I haven't got people in my mind who, when I'm sharing this, I'm saying this just about me. That's how I'd like to be perceived long term, and I hope that I can leave that sort of legacy, and whether it's through just the music or the friendships that I've made, that's far more important to me.
And I think that's why doing stuff like this is important. So people get to see besides the recorded music that you've got out there, they get to see a little bit more about what you're about. The people that know you, the people in the industry, they know, but maybe not Joe Blow, who has, a couple of Reason records, would know all of that. So sure. I think this sort of stuff I'm trying to justify my existence here, but I think this sort of stuff is important for people to get out there who they actually are on top of the music.
The traction that you've got with the type of people that have jumped on board, hence me very, very adamant that I want to be on board, is testament to you not just focusing on the 94 BPMs over that sick Donald Byrd loop that you smashed and sold 30,000 copies of online and whatnot. You've been able to open up space for people to talk about every part of their contribution, how they've traversed or navigated their way through the scene. And that's what's so different about this opportunity and why I am not just coming back today, but I'm coming back every 3 months to share another, and through another lens, other bits and pieces of my journey and my recollections of days gone by.
For sure. And I think that was definitely my idea. I just wanted people to tell their story and not focus on, like, people, if they want to listen to your music, of course they can find your music. If they want to see your film clips, they can see the film clips. They can do that stuff. Yep. But they don't know about what makes you tick. And that's what I wanted to do with here. I wanted it to be deeper than that.
Yep.
And, you know, we know that about our friends, but it's been cool because some people go, man, I knew this dude for 25 years. I had no idea about this part with their parents or this part with their, you know what I mean? So people are learning from their friends about this sort of stuff.
I think it's also that that vulnerability piece. And I think that's a generational shift. So listening to some of my contemporaries on this podcast and listening to them in recent years, you know, we navigated the 80s. Most of us survived, and you know, we're still reeling from those who didn't survive the 80s and 90s, and they form a lot of who we are as people. But it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to share some pieces of information that at that time where we were, you know, wearing the baseball caps and heads high and chests out, and you know, I only listen to Schoolie D and EPMD and so forth. No, I don't. Why do I? This is vulnerable. Why do I adamantly say I didn't listen to anything in the mid to late 80s other than hip hop? Why do I know every song on Gold FM? I know every word. Why? I wouldn't have. It's a weird little quip to share, but
it makes sense.
Seriously, when I know that second verse of "Into the Groove" by Madonna, I'm telling you, I was not listening to Madonna on 3KZ before it was Gold FM. I know every word. So I think today we sort of come from, look, we survived, and I think it's really important that we can show some vulnerability, but you know, I think one of the things I learnt from conversations in days gone by, with, you know, you can show vulnerability, but you know, sometimes you'll get some of the newer generation, you know, all staunch and, you know, talking to you like this, man, like that. That still exists. So I want to be vulnerable. I want to be honest and sincere, but it's not too deep within. That sort of level of strength and conviction and that momentary, you want to, like, I got to step up into old school mode. It's still within us all, and you know, and I think I've been able to see that sort of happy balance, and you know, really appreciate that you've been able to give us space to show not just reason, but also see Jason, Dad, and all the other pieces of what comprises who we are.
For sure, and that's why I don't want to try and cram everything into, you know, 2.5 hours, because we've gone through your timeline and we are still in the mid-90s, you know.
Obese Records hasn't even, that's we haven't even gone there.
I know, we haven't gone there, and we can start that journey, but yeah, I feel like we're not going to even sort of get there. But let's talk about Obese. You did touch on Pegs, but then before that was Ollie Bobbitt. So tell us about the early days, because you were there from, you would have been familiar with it. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. No, a regular visit to Greville Street, that little back part of the store that Ollie had created a bit of a hip hop slash. I mean, he was pretty sick on the skateboard as well. So, you know, I mean, I used to see Luther or Ollie, you know, skating down at Paran, and you know, now knew him for his work with WCA and, you know, all the other parts, and he's opened up like a hip hop store like OB1 now.
What year is this? What year is this for the historians out there?
95?
Okay.
Yeah, 95, 96.
And it's on gravel. It's not on Is It Street then.
That's on gravel.
It's on gravel. Yep.
Definitely on gravel. Yeah. And it just an opening for us to go and hang out and go purchase hip hop vinyl and other paraphernalia. Probably wasn't as open to the artistic, the cans and so forth. I don't know if that was as permissive. You could purchase them, but you walk into a store now. You walk into Union Heights or walk into the old Obese or This Is It, and the first thing you see is Beltons on the wall before you even start seeing the vinyls. So, Ollie sort of created that sort of space for the music, and we saw that as an opportunity, not just to be. We didn't only have to go to Central Station Records anymore. We didn't have to just go to some of the other local record stores to purchase our hip hop. We actually had an avenue now to purchase hip hop records from a fella who had given of himself to the scene already, and who was well respected, probably in the early 90s and 80s, well feared as well back in those days.
He was a big guy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And, came with a bit of fear growing up as well. The whole Ollie Bobbitt, Luther and other iterations. So he opened up the store and it's like, wow, this is incredible. And this is where the Shaz started, Shaz started to work there as well. And then when Ollie moved on, the Obese became Obese Records, and Shaz took it to a whole new level.
And that's when it moved to Is It Street?
Yes.
Because that's my first, I'm younger, but that's, I think probably maybe 96 or 97, I probably went there.
Yep.
So before that, it was on gravel, near Gravel Street Records. Whereabouts is it?
Across the road.
So it's on that sort of side. Yeah. Okay.
Across the road from Gravel Street Records.
Yep. Okay, cool. So then it moves to Is It Street, and then it changes direction a bit. It's like, it's obviously a bit bigger. It's got more, it changes. It's a bit more commercial. Is it? Commercial in the sense that it was permissive to sell that type of music, to sell the cans, to sell the clothes. So, and that's always been an interesting piece. It's like everyone used to want to get their songs played on Triple J. Once their song got played 10 times, the artists would be reveling in these opportunities. Finally, my music's being played nationwide. And the heads in the burbs are like, sell out. Well, Obese Records suddenly was exposed to a whole new audience, a whole new demographic. You were seeing people walk around the streets wearing their extra large, hoodies and other sort of tribal as well. I was scouring my mind because it's probably just before the Obese Records clothing ranges and so forth. But commercial in that sense, that finally we had a store that was true to the art, but anyone could access. But it also became a hub, a place where we'd hang out, stand around the front, drink a beer out the front, just hang out. And it was unusual because the only time I ever felt that was a thing was during Central Station Records days as well. So to be able to walk in there and not actually realise that the younger generation were coming in sometimes, not just to purchase, but to see who was hanging out. Yeah. That Shaz was in there, that Reason was in there, that Pegs was in there, that Brad Strutt was in there. Others, they would just come out and want to come and meet us. And we also had to sort of change our persona a little bit, just... a young person coming up, hey, Reason, how you going, man? Nice to meet you. So if that happened 5-10 years back, it'd be like, okay. Whereas then it's like, real nice to meet you as well, because you'd moved also from doing gigs out in the, small venues in the burbs to you're also out there. So are you commercial? No, but your brand, your music is now become more accessible to the masses. And that's where,
I'm grateful for not just the work of PBS and Triple R for giving us a voice. I'm uber grateful to Richard Kingsmill. People can say different things about Triple J, not Richard, different things about Triple J, but people like Andy Glitcher and others, they gave us those opportunities to get our music played on a national radio station, and they expose the music. And that's where, moving from the mid to late 90s and into the 2000s, they are a huge part as to why we can listen to hip-hop music on radio.
I agree wholeheartedly. People hate on them, but I agree.
People can hate on them because their version of hating on them started in, I hate on them. Oh, how long have you been listening to the... Oh, mate... I'm 2014, bros, old school. Okay. So I'm not one to, like, everyone's old school is defined by, in their mind, how long they've been in it for.
Definitely.
But for me, old school is probably a more traditional sort of understanding that the genre really started kicking off in the mid 80s, and so I came in a second wave of that per se. So if it wasn't for Triple J, if it wasn't for Richard opening up the doors for us, we would not have the same standing, being able to play at these national tours, events and so forth. Whether I like the music of Triple J today, I'm actually listening to Gold FM on the way here. I think I need to listen to a bit of Eurythmics and Wah Wah Nee sometimes. But, more than sometimes, a lot. I'm really grateful for the work of Triple J.
And people forget it is a youth radio station, and people get on their high horse. Oh, Triple J's changed. You're like, yeah, it has, and we're in our 40s now, me personally, and it's not 2005 anymore.
Yep.
So what young people like is not what 40-year-olds like. So move to Double J or listen to Spotify or play your own records if you want to be have something curated to your ears, but it serves a purpose and it's good. Unearthed, like, the platform is amazing.
Absolutely.
I think as a country we're super lucky to have that.
Yep, agree.
So people just need to not throw the baby out with the bathwater and not hate on them so much, because they are just providing a free service that's government funded. So it is what it is. That's my little bit.
No, I agree. And I just think what it is that certain groups that were being exposed as the years have moved on, people have a perception of whether these certain groups, and that's a personal perception of theirs, are atypical Aussie hip-hop or whatever that might mean, and hence that they're using that hip-hop as the benchmark and not able to reflect on previous to that. We were getting played, many other groups were getting played, and they set the standard for us. And I'll always be a great supporter of what they did. I don't listen to much Triple J these days because it's not necessarily my style of music that I'm kind of listening to. I'm not going to throw them under the bus. For me, I'm more likely to listen to SEN.
Yeah.
Straight up. Straight up. So, that's a big thing for me as well.
So let's talk about the record label that came out of the shop, right? So you're the first release officially.
Yep.
So how does that happen? Does Shaz say to you, look, we're gonna start pressing stuff, or how does that even sort of come about?
So I started recording. Started doing some stuff with Joel's at the time.
Yep. He was in St Kilda then.
Yep. I was living with him down Ackland Street and Carlisle Street. Pardon me, not Ackland Street. Carlisle Street, and we started recording. And I was already mates with Shaz and those fellas. And Shaz just said to me, "I'm just thinking of kind of starting a label through the store, and interested in sort of bringing out something through the label." I'm like, yeah, of course. So, we discussed what that would constitute and what he would be able to do, because, I'd brought out tapes before and I'd done the recordings before and I'd been on plenty of features, but bring out like a Reason album. Like it's interesting, you know. My first release is in the late '80s, and my first solo album was in 2000. So we had a chat. I'm like, cool. He's like, all right, we're going to get Brendan Flick, Burn Crew. He'll do the cover. We'll get you to do your recording. So I've got Joel's did the production. Had Bias on it, Pack, Brad Strutt, had Prowler doing cuts. So the cuts on Melways, a Prowler, a few other bits and pieces helping me out, and there you have it. Obese 001, Solid came out, and it took the country by storm. Like the record store is bringing out its first ever release on CD at that time. So I got shows around the country, tours, and kind of kick-started the label.
Mm-hmm. And then because you knew the shop, you can push the product there. Yeah. There's I'm guessing a network of other shops doing similar things in their respective cities. Yep. So you know that you can push it through there. Absolutely. You're not getting any mainstream distribution at this stage, though. No. So you're doing it pretty grassroots. Yep. But it definitely did sort of open up the door of which way the label was going to go.
Definitely. And things like what's your first single? I don't know. I like all the tracks. Every track to me is important. Started to get a bit of traction around Melways, and I think that's probably one of the more iconic tracks for me that people who have followed my journey know me for. That song Melways. Again, I had Bias on that track as well. Cuts by Prowler, produced by Joel's, and Triple J started playing it, so it was pretty cool. I'm like, geez, this is weird. Like my music's getting played on Triple J. The songs getting played on other like radio shows around the country.
Not hip hop shows, just music shows.
Yeah. Okay. It's nuts.
So now you've opened up a door.
It's just crazy. Like I was going to these radio stations around the country that I thought only played pop music. I don't know. They're playing Nirvana or playing whatever. Like they're playing Reason tracks as well. It's incomparable. Like,
but who's servicing that to them? Or are they hearing it on Triple J, or is it just got a bit of a buzz in the underground stores?
Yeah, it's a great question. We were sending out product to the radio stations, sending product out to the stores, promo CDs, and suddenly, there's a bit of noise around it, and they were contacting Obese, and Obese were asking me, well, do you want to go do a show, or do you want to go do something in Tassie, or go do a show down up in Brisbane? And I'm like, this is what it's about. I was doing album launches, and it just created a movement for Obese Records, and which spawned thereafter.
Did you and Shaz have a chat afterwards and be like, oh, that actually went better than we anticipated?
I suppose in retrospect, I never really envisaged it to have such a wide span of
appeal.
The appeal. So people in the hip hop scene knew who I was, but now others started to know who I was as well. But the beauty of it was not just my release, but thereafter, like 002, 003 and so forth, happened in quick succession. So that in itself created a bit of noise around Obese Records, the label, and there were people out there who were wanting to jump on board.
Yeah, and I guess one part of it would be that a lot of these people, I was going to say kids, but individuals in other cities would hear of Obese, but they hadn't been to Melbourne, so they've got a little slice of it that they could buy from their local shop.
That's it.
And you were just the first person to do that, which would have helped push the whole thing as well.
Yeah, look, I attribute, that particular period of time in the Australian hip hop scene from 2000 onwards. If we're thinking of the catalysts, the big players, I see people like Shaz, and then Pegs thereafter when he took over the store and continued on that legacy as being, the people to create the noise that we still have in our current sort of existence in Australian hip-hop or worldwide hip-hop, whatever we want to call this genre, hip-hop in Australia. what came of that and the label because of Shaz, and then subsequently taken on by Pegs. And we're talking, I can do a bit of name dropping now. We're talking the Hoods, we're talking Strut, we're talking Drapht, Downsyde, M Phases,
even Kerser,
Illy, Kerser, Bias. I mean,
Muffin Platonic.
Yeah, Muffin Platonic. I know. There's so many that I'm not mentioning.
Dielectrics.
Thundamentals as well.
There's a lot.
Yeah. So many. And, one big happy family in the initial stages of the Obese Records label, and more than the initial stages, in the first 5-7 years, one big happy family. You think of the Obese block parties, and you look at the lineup, you see Hoods, Pegs, Drapht, Downsyde, etc., etc. It's like, whoa, is this the same as a US iteration of Big Daddy Kane, Rocky, and like, is it the same? It probably is, because I think you got the cream of the crop.
Yep.
Traveling the country and building at a very fast rate.
Yep.
And that in itself, that very fast rate, sustaining that pace and the growth, perhaps in some ways became one of the great challenges as we moved through the 2000s, mid-2000s, where things started to change and how people were able to sustain their presence on the label and or take on other opportunities. Things started to sort of go in different directions.
It felt like, as just somebody who was listening to the radio and consuming it from afar, that at one stage, anything that Obese put out, Triple J was going to give it a run for a brief period. Is that how it was?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And probably even album of the week, just like bang.
Straight away. Yep.
So you could do no wrong.
No wrong. And that was also at a time where, Shaz built the foundations, and then Pegs continued to build on those foundations.
And he had a bigger vision, I think.
Much bigger. And so we had an office, like Obese Records office, not just the store, distribution arm, we had promotions, had finance office, business manager. Like, it was becoming a seminal like a corporation per se, and that's why it was able to reach out at so many levels of music, radio, distribution, shows, contributions to communities. It became a conglomerate per se.
And I guess that makes the A&R side of it easier, because people know these guys are the guys who are the biggest, who are doing it, who have the biggest pull. So they're coming to you going, hey, like, they're going to Obese, like, we're doing this. Yep. You want us, you know what I mean? It makes finding the accent a lot easier.
Absolutely. It's with that, like any record label, local record label. I'm not talking Universal, Sony, and so forth, but any local record label, it was unique. So if I often think, like, if you wanted to write a documentary about Obese,
I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, no, me too. I've been thinking about writing a book about it as well.
I think
did everyone hear that? I said that first, or did old mate? Anyway,
but I think someone needs to document it. It should at least be a 45-minute doco, at least.
Well, I'll put it out there, right? I think its immense growth became a seminal undoing at a particular period of time, where you've suddenly got the biggest artists in WA, biggest artists in South Australia, who were also the biggest artists in the country, some of your biggest artists in Melbourne and so forth. How do you sustain this when now you've got other big international labels and players also wanting in? And they want access. So, people want access to the Hoods. People want access to Downsyde. People want to jump on this Illy fella. People want to be able to see how do we get these guys to also get involved in what we're doing from a whole national, multinational conglomerate, where you've got this small label in Paran who's really holding it all together. And a lot of the rhetoric that I hear about, a lot of the gossip or a lot of the negative sort of information, and I'm not trying to embellish a story that doesn't exist. Absolutely, it does exist, but I'll put myself out there as someone who is integral both at the forefront and behind the scenes with the artists and with those running the label. The disconnect is nowhere near what the gossip train wanted it to be. Mm-hmm. And if you got someone like me and you doing the doco, you'd get one perspective. If you got
Frank,
Frankie will have a really good perspective as well. And I tip my hat to Frankie for being able to show the tenacity and courage to also move in another direction and create a magnificent brand in the work that he's done. And he's someone who, I stay pretty resolute about. We've come in and out of each other's lives, but I've known Frankie for, I'll go as far as say nearly 35 years. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the true gentlemen of the scene.
If there was a Mount Rushmore for just culture, not rapping, he'd be up there.
Oh, yeah. No, he'd be up there, and I wouldn't need another 17. Probably another 3 or 4. No, he'd be up there. Yeah, he's one of the good guys. It always has been. But yeah, just the different perspectives. It wasn't a capitulation that the people wanted to hear about. People would tell me stories. I heard shit went down and this guy would smash it. I'm like, for real? I was there. I didn't see it happen. I was actually with these people you're talking about. Tell me more. Thinking,
but that's how rumours form, because something that appears to be such a juggernaut that's unstoppable, when it eventually does stop, and that's probably its undoing, because how do you maintain that momentum? It's hard to. Music changes, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
It'd also be remiss of me not to say that it wasn't all, dandelions and fairies. They're not words I would have used in the 80s. It wasn't. Like, there was also, some of the different directions people navigated weren't as gentlemanlike as I would have hoped at the time. But some of the significant power moves that I hear about, not at all. Most of the stories that could be shared at a different time were just being able to sustain the support for groups that were able to also get opportunities at a much bigger level. On a much bigger level, that's all. And that the label, it's a $1 million label per se versus these $multi-million labels.
And at that time, they've got all the money.
All the money.
In 2000. Yeah. But it is pretty amazing how a retail shop no bigger than this room, probably smaller than this room, actually changed Australian music forever.
Yep.
Not just in a hip-hop capacity, but in a commercial capacity in general. Made everybody take note of there was this stuff out there. And that is pretty remarkable. And I feel like it does need to be documented.
Agreed.
We try and do it on this show, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And people are going to talk about it because they're like, well, what happened,
Yeah, because people want to focus on the deficit model. People want to focus on why it went in a particular direction, but not focus. And, it comes back to Triple J. People want to focus on, I don't want to listen to that Weezer shit. Okay, me either. Okay, but I can tell you in the late 90s into 2000, they did everything to establish a platform for our music. Mm-hmm. And they've gone in other directions, and so has many other labels, so has many other radio stations. When it comes to the work of Obese Records and its ability to create a strong presence as a local label that spawned some of the biggest artists this country has ever seen, that should never be forgotten about its impact, and people like Ollie to Shaz and then Pegs from being able to create that. Those three people, Mount Rushmore with Jaws, with This Is It, and with Frankie from Union Heights, maybe nearly go as far as saying Stewie from DMC Records, when that was also a really important part for the DJs. Mm-hmm. They've really been important players in the growth of the actual product itself.
Yep. And I know you can't talk on Pegs' behalf, but you're probably the closest I've got so far to getting him on the show.
Sure.
But did he just fall out of love with it? Do you think that he lost the passion, or did it just go in a different direction?
It's interesting because hopefully Pegs will have a listen to this as well, because he knows everything that I want to say and everything I'm going to say or everything I'm not going to say. I know he's listening to every word of it, right? So I'm talking about one of my I don't have a what do girls have at high school, that mean, like a list of friends, that mean list or whatever they call it. Because I work in schools, I've heard about it before.
Right.
But he's one of my top three. Yeah. He's one of my top three trusted confidants, and he knows more about me than number 4, 5, and 6. And it just became financially unsustainable, and
because the music industry changed.
Yeah,
because the dollars weren't there.
Yeah, just to be able to sort of facilitate the type of brand and store, and then service the artists, and also to be able to provide that unequivocal support that was provided during those early years, as well as just growing up, getting older, and priorities changing as well. Mm-hmm. He's certainly got a passion for the music, and got a passion for the people that he's worked alongside of, as well as the friends that he's made. But the scene changed when things became digital. People weren't purchasing CDs. It's had a resurgence, so CDs, vinyl, there's a resurgence, and hence the other people I've mentioned who've been able to capitalise, and thank God they're the people who have capitalised and being able to take it to that next level again. But the passion just sort of shifted per se.
And I can get that, yeah. Do you think he would ever come on the podcast?
All right, so you said something before, which will probably be a good response. I think every podcast I've been on in the last couple of years, there's always been this. So what do you reckon? You help us out getting Pegs involved? Yeah, we thought, 97 other people said you'd be the one who could.
You got to shoot your shot when you've got the opportunity.
Yeah, so I'll respond as I did to the others. No, sorry, bros, can't help you out here, but would love to. I've spoken to him, and his just priorities have changed, and he's not in hermit mode. I can give him a buzz now. If he knows I'm on here, he ain't going to answer. But yeah, give him a call. I speak to him all the time. But the priorities have changed, and he's a pretty resolute. And the word stubborn is not sort of parody to who, but he's pretty resolute. And I don't know who could get him involved in a podcast, but you've asked me, so I'm going to ask him, and I feel like I can speak on his behalf.
And say no.
And say no, yeah. But, I reckon in time, it'd be great for him to be able to share a few stories. I'd love him to be able to share some stories and actually have some of those artists and other people in the room who apparently, according to the masses, there's interesting narratives that sit around it, because you'll find that they don't exist at all. He is so... I can say this. He's pretty happy that the certain artists have continued to flourish, and super happy. And if you saw them on the street, you'd have to pull him off them because he'd be hugging them, and so happy to see them. Yeah. All the anger and the angst and all of that sort of stuff, other people can hold. He doesn't hold that.
No. But whenever there is an absence of somebody who people talk about, there's always going to be rumours and stuff that pop up, I guess, When he doesn't say anything, then I guess people are going to make up their own stories.
Oh, definitely. Look, here's a question for you. How many people have asked whether you can do Prowler?
A lot.
That's right. So I put them in a similar, if I'm not mates with Prowler anymore. I haven't seen Prowler for years.
Right.
But we're totally cool, but just haven't seen him, like many of us. We haven't seen him for years. I know what he's up to. I know I know things. But
some people have seen him.
Yep, I know. Yep, who've told me they have, and so forth. But I think people like Prowler, people like like Pegs. I thought it was gold that you got Pack on here. Amazing. In fact, I thought it was gold you got Trem because, also definitive members of this community who are, demigods, but are not always omnipresent. So I thought it was, a real testament to get those two on here and a few others that you've been able to access as well. Hopefully, your Prowls and your Pegses could get on here one day.
One day. One door opens another, and when I think, people within the scene speak to him, they go, Maloney's actually a good dude, they do this thing. And so then it does kind of every episode, it becomes a little bit easier and people become a little bit more reassured.
100%.
So, yeah, I'll keep knocking on the doors, but you don't want to ever bug people too much either.
Look, if you ask Jace if you can get Prowls, and you ask this Jason or Jace if you can get Pegs, probably get similar responses.
Yeah, and there's other people that people bring up all the time, which I'm just like, it's not going to happen. Just forget about it. But it's all good for the algorithm. Just let people comment all the time. Get this guy on.
Definitely.
Guy on.
Yeah. No. Let's say their name 10 times together.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think we're almost going to have to wrap it up.
Okay.
Only because your time restraints.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, because I want you got to do some tags in the book. I've got some stuff. We're going to get some photos.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Love
it's
it.
almost 1:30. And look, it's sad that we couldn't get to the whole story, but I'm more than happy for you to come back as soon as you're ready, and let's do a part 2.
Definitely. So, what do we hit? Early 2000s. So there's only another 20 years to talk about.
A whole lot left to talk. 25 years. Probably 20. Yeah.
Jeez. All right. So I've got so much more to talk about, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about 20-ish years. How old? Another 20-ish sort of years. Some of the greatest memories are from those times, but some of the period from, let's say, 2002 onwards, and some of the journey that's taken me to where I am today, I can't wait to share with you sometime soon, mate.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm happy to have you back sooner rather than later. It's
Awesome.
been a great chat so far.
Amazing.
Reason, thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Maloney, thank you for giving us a voice, mate. Thank you for giving all of us a voice and the normalcy that you bring to this. We're talking about coming back in a few months' time. Time is just an imaginative piece, and might see you sooner than later.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, bro. Thank you.
Cheers.